Welcome to Code the Future, the podcast where we explore the cutting edge of embedded software innovation and the people shaping its future. I'm here with Arnaud Fessard from Bosch Engineering North America. Bosch powers many aspects of modern life. You think about the appliances in your kitchen, the dishwashers, the fridges, the ADAS systems within your vehicles, the power tools within your garage, or at least my garage. And that breadth provides Bosch with a real perspective in terms of technology integration. And today we're going to be exploring some of that in terms of how they're bringing that to the SDV era and beyond. So Arnaud, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So to start off, can you provide us with a little bit of an overview in terms of your role at Bosch, what you're focused on?
All right, of course. So I'm the engineering director for Bosch Engineering in North America. And Bosch Engineering is a very specific division within Bosch. And what we do basically is that we provide access to the complete Bosch portfolio for mobility to small volume applications. So this means luxury, performance, motorsport, rail, aviation, or all the area that we try to tackle. And again, it's about reutilizing all our high quality product that we have for the automotive industry in niche applications, basically. So that's what we do at Bosch Engineering in North America.
So it's not a small portfolio is what you're saying.
It's a huge portfolio, and it's amazing because we are confronted with a huge number of different technological solutions that we can then offer to our customers. And that gives us an incredible edge in terms of system comprehension because, again, we're not focusing only on brake systems or on steering systems. We are focusing on the complete portfolio, and that gives us an incredible edge in terms of system comprehension for the automotive area.
So if we narrow in on the auto industry, then, I think it's fair to say that 2025 was anything but business as usual for automakers, tier ones, the industry at large. When you reflect back on the year that was, how do you think about the changing forces that are impacting your business?
So first, I'm going to state the obvious. AI has been disrupting everything in the past year, more so than the years before. So that's something that we've been intensively working on. And then the second force that's, at least for my area of responsibility, that has been extremely obvious in terms of, change of direction is the powertrain technological direction that we're taking. So we've been all in electrification in that market for the past decade. And now we see a very strong shift in terms of, what is the strategy that we want to apply moving forward.
Yeah. And you mentioned AI, and I saw that you guys made a big announcement to kick off the year in terms of an AI vehicle extension that you can upgrade existing vehicle cabins to turn it into more of a personal companion.
Exactly. Yep.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that offering?
Yeah, of course. So in our booth this year at CES, we're presenting our AI extension platform. This is exactly what you just said. This is enabling already today's cockpits to make the best use of AI possible to improve and make the customer experience amazing. Once you enter a car, you need to feel at home. You need to be to still have a connection to your digital identity and your digital world, and that's what we're showcasing here. In order to do that, we collaborate very strongly with NVIDIA,
right?
And we're basing basically our software stack and so on their hardware technology. That allows us again to be at the edge of the technology today. I mean, there is no question about NVIDIA being very advanced in their in that technology, and more so, NVIDIA is not the only partner that we're collaborating with on that topic. Microsoft, for instance, is another partner that we work very strongly with. In that AI extension, one of the key questions is how do you utilize all the time that is given back to you in terms of you have autonomous driving and so on coming. So how do you utilize the time that is freed up for the driver?
What are we going to do with
stuff?
all this time?
And for instance, integrating the Microsoft suite, the Microsoft 365 suite inside a cockpit to enable the people driving, or for us, going to work or going back from work, to continue working inside our car and increase our productivity. This is what we've been working.
Oh, good. So we can do Microsoft Excel on the way to the office.
For instance, yeah. I mean, the key here is to really make sure that we do this in a safe way. And but that's what we're aiming at the end is.
So that's obviously AI at the application layer. If we take a step back to sort of your remit, engineering, how do you think about it in relation to the development process itself in terms of, augmenting coding and, helping with the documentation and the validation and the checks and balances that you really need to make sure that everything is ironclad before it gets into a, SOP?
So AI is really disrupting everything that we're doing. It's not only the software development, it's also the manufacturing processes. It's our marketing strategy. How do you create the perfect advertisement for our products, using AI too. What is really important for Bosch is that we strongly believe that AI is going to enhance our developer and our development team, especially enabling our engineers to focus more on the feature and less on the documentation and so on. I mean, we want our engineers to focus on innovation, on creativity, on the feature that we're developing, and less on documenting everything that we're doing. It's the value add of evaluating compiler errors, for instance, is going less and less. And our engineers are looking forward to that and are happy that we're able to unload them during the development process to enable, again, that increased creativity, innovation, and feature development.
I think it's the same for us. I mean, that's where they want to spend their time, right? That's what they like doing the best. That's where they're able to be creative, to your point. And
Nice,
I mean, there's nothing worse than, getting to sort of the checks and balances stage. You want to get on to the next project, right?
Exactly,
You don't want to. So that's great to hear that there's some alignment in that area, right? So, I mean, it's been well documented this past year, over the past few years, actually, right? OEMs delaying programs, changing volume projections for certain programs. There's been lots of challenges, right? How do you manage amidst all that uncertainty?
I mean, this is nothing new for Bosch. I mean, honestly, the automobile industry has been always, driven by, okay, there is a model that's going to be successful, another one that is not going to be successful. Some volumes has been met, some volumes has not been met, some volumes have been increasing compared to what we were expecting. So we've been very, we have a long experience of handling, these kind of situations. However, what we noticed today is that the collaboration with the OEM is taking a different direction. So it's more a customer supplier relationship that is being created right now. It's more a collaboration because nobody knows where the trip is going right now. So again, working together with the OEM very early on and staying in touch all along the development process is what helps us, to better assess what are the volumes that are going to come and so on. We can also have volume dependent pricing also that applies, and that has always applied, and in the car industry. So that's how we handle this aspect.
So it certainly sounds like what you're saying is there's a lot more openness to tighter partnerships,
Exactly. Yeah.
closer collaborations,
Exactly, and we also shift, more to a one-time payment strategy when, we really at the beginning of the program we really define, okay, how do we front load again the engineering process, and during that engineering process then assess, okay, what are going to be the volume, etc. But we need to do this together with the OEMs. That's extremely important.
And what, from your perspective, are the biggest pain points that they're grappling with right now when it comes to these next generation platforms? Where do they need the help?
I think there's been a shift in the past couple of years for the OEM. The OEM always wanted a very strong control over the software, and they wanted to do everything in-house and themselves. And this is shifting right now. I mean, I think the OEMs have understood now, but by now that they can't do everything by themselves, and that it's not even meaningful to do everything by themselves. There is really a strong difference to be made between what is a software commodity and non-differentiating software, basically, and the feature and the IP and the branding of an OEM. And what we want to allow them is to focus on the second part, making sure that they focus on their DNA and that they can really provide a branded experience, and let us take care of things that are maybe, again, not differentiating and not relevant for the end customer. I mean, stuff like security, regulatory compliance, and so on. These are things that we can provide to all our customers, and they don't need to care about it. Basically, they don't need to be worried about that. This is the advantage that we're trying to provide to the OEMs.
Of course, these sorts of transitions usually never happen as quickly as one would like. But when you think about, success, what do you sort of consider the gold standard? I guess if maybe you can speak to a project that Bosch has been involved with, you don't even need to necessarily name the OEM, but is there one that you sort of consider the pinnacle of this is exactly how it should be working?
I don't think there is a blueprint for something that will work for everybody. But again, our collaboration with NVIDIA is a very important aspect, and then something that we see really being fruitful in the coming couple of years. To be honest with you, I think the industry has been facing more challenges than successes in the past years. But this is for us an amazing opportunity also to find our place in the industry and to make sure that we support the OEMs on understanding how to solve those challenges here. And this is what Bosch is really. It's for Bosch, the advantage that we have inside the industry is our wide portfolio. I mean, you mentioned that at the beginning of the interview. We have a very large portfolio on the automotive side. That goes, from brake systems, from steering, from powertrain, from infotainment, and so on. And having that massive portfolio makes us understand way better than other on the market how those different components interact with each other. And this system comprehensions enables us also to identify, what are the pain points of the OEMs putting a car together more so than any of our competitors.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any, I mean, I know you mentioned the size and the scale of, you're a massive global company. Are there any unique challenges that you're faced with from an engineering perspective in North America versus other regions?
I won't call that necessarily a challenge, but there are specificas for sure. I mean, the regulations in North America is very different than what we have in Europe or in other parts of the world. So that's one. What we have seen also is that the adoption of the AutoSAR standard has been way slower in North America than in Europe, for instance. And that's also, if we need to adapt our portfolio also to those needs. Working together with the hyperscalers and, Amazon, Google, and so on is also something that is very typical, very specific for North America. And one thing that we've also noticed is that, the heart of the car industry in the US is in Michigan, right? And
Where you're based.
exactly,
Yeah.
where Bosch is based mainly. I mean, we have a lot of different locations in the US, but Michigan is really the heart of the car industry in the US. The heart of the software industry in the US is on the West Coast. And what we do see, and this is sometimes a challenge, what we do see is a very strong cultural differences between those two locations. And when it comes about, so making sure that those two cultures really work together, that's a challenge that we don't necessarily have in other parts of the.
Yeah, that's a really interesting dichotomy. You wouldn't necessarily have that in Germany or China or Japan,
Exactly,
right?
yeah,
It's
exactly, yeah. And so I think the OEM are still trying to figure out, okay, how can we make the best out of the two cultures?
bring the
basically?
best from both and
Exactly,
marry
yeah.
them. Yeah. Is there one topic that, again, thinking back at the year that was, that you think didn't necessarily get as much attention as it should have, and why do you think that might change in the year ahead? Like we talked about, sort of the recognition that OEMs need not do it all by themselves. Are there any other things that you think, oh, I would have thought, we would have seen more activity around that?
I think maybe on the communication side, I think we believe that the powertrain area has been in focus, but not necessarily talked about as much as it should have been. At Bosch, we've been always very clear on powertrain is not a unique solution. Where we never said, okay, electrification is going to be the only path forward. We've been heavily investing in hydrogen also for combustion and fuel cells also in the past years. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we keep this diversification in our powertrain portfolio. And we see right now that the OEMs, we thought a couple of years ago that no engine development is going to be triggered by the big OEMs, because, okay, the technology that we have now is sufficient to move forward, and it's going to be replaced step by step by the electrification. But we see that this is turning around right now, and I don't think this is talked that quarterly enough.
Yeah, it's important to have a diversity of options and to be able to give the OEMs whatever mix they want to have, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I think the administration is also playing a huge
Sure,
role
of
into
course.
into that. And
yeah.
the OEM have had a very hard time in the past 10 years to understand, okay, where is the path, where are the regulatory requirements going, and they've had to to change strategies multiple times in the past year.
Stop,
So
start, right?
yeah.
Bit of a lightning round. So, two quick questions. When you think about the auto industry, what keeps you positive? What keeps you optimistic? And then what keeps you up at night?
So what I think is that the car is really going to become, as our cell phones, an extension of our digital life. And I think this is what we need to enable. And with that, I think the objective, and Bosch, Bosch Motors is invented for life. And what we want to do is really make that mobility experience for every customer the most enjoyable thing possible. And so it needs to be fun, when you enter a car. You need to, now you got to get out of the office, you're going to get into your car.
Do some
and you-
Excel spreadsheets.
No, I'm not necessarily, but again, we want the people to enter their car with a smile,
Yeah.
and feeling safe, and this is what Bosch is for.
Yeah,
Invented for life is really a key element of our strategy, and bringing that to the OEMs and to the consumers at the end.
I like it. And what about the dark clouds that you worry about on the horizon?
I think right now we need to keep a very positive attitude towards everything. I think there is plenty of opportunities on the market right now. again, not having clarity is also, again, for
uncertainty.
suppliers, uncertainty is also opening a lot of opportunities for us. And so, again, I think we're very positive towards the future. We strongly believe that AI is going to be very positive for mankind, and we want to be a part of it, and that's what keeps me up at night.
Okay. Gotcha. Sounds good. Last question, always our final question. If you could think back to your younger self when you're initially starting out in the industry, what piece of advice would you give the younger you, and why?
Fun fact, I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering, and from day one at Bosch, and I've been at Bosch for 20 years, I've been working on software. So
How does that work out?
It worked out pretty well. I think, it's really important to make sure that our software developers understand also the physical impact of what they are coding. And I think that gives me also an edge, in terms of understanding how does the software, translate to a physical reaction, basically. And I would still advise myself maybe to study computer science instead of mechanical engineering back then. But no, jokes aside, I think this again, there's a lot of opportunity that I'm really jealous of all the new engineers coming out of the university to understand how they're gonna explore those opportunities. And again, at Bosch, we're really focusing on making sure that all the talents that we need in order to execute is available, and we're investing heavily also on trainings. I think Tanya Ruckert, our chief digital officer, during our keynote this year, has mentioned that we have a bit over 400,000 employees at Bosch, and we've been able to train 100,000 of them already on AI.
Wow,
and that's amazing.
incredible.
That's an incredible
Yeah.
number.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. I mean, amidst all the uncertainty, it still is a pretty excing industry to be a part of.
It's amazing.
So,
I mean, right now,
yeah,
there is disruption, and disruption can be, you can be afraid of disruption, but we want to really make this an opportunity for us.
like you said, great opportunities. So thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you
Arnaud.
very much, Matt,
Really,
for having me.
really enjoyed it.